Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Talks with Wine. I am your host, Marley.
I am Kamaya.
And I'm Tam. Hey guys.
Well, she getting comfy now.
Right. She's like,
Okay.
let me just say hey.
I'm just gonna.
She's Tam now.
I'm Tam. You guys have been what? It's been a year with us. You
It
can,
has been.
you can call me
It's
Tam.
been a year.
It's cool.
Still call me Marley. Don't shorten it. I don't care.
I call you Marls.
No.
I call her Marls. I don't know who the hell she's saying no to.
She really do in the group chat. I just think Marley just be like.
Hey Marls, how you doing? I'm good. How are you?
Well, Marls is okay. Don't get comfortable.
I'm not saying. I feel like that's more difficult to say than Marley.
Marls?
Yeah, I feel like it's effort.
I think the reason I can't respond to Marls is because I'm traumatized.
Oh, all right.
But let's get into our week.
Let's move on.
There's a story behind it, but I'm traumatized.
Okay.
Let's get into our week. How was it, everyone?
I'm gonna drink my wine.
Right, I was gonna drink, but I saw you. Okay, mine was good. I've been doing stuff.
And stuff has been doing you.
Yes, what?
Wait a minute.
I mean, anyways, no, yes, trapping in my house. I've been house trapping. I've been
The trap house.
Yes, it is. It is. That indeed it is. And no, I've just been working and momming and repeat.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working, I've been momming, and I've been working and momming, and now I've been talks with whining too.
So repeat and talk to
Okay.
You know, we're back in the swing of things. So,
But it's been
like,
productive,
yeah.
and I'm very happy, and the sun has blessed me, and we.
Right, she got a little tan.
You know, I'm excited. I think I just feel rejuvenated because I got some salt water, I got some sun,
I like that.
I got some tequila,
Mm.
and it was, so I just feel it's my Pisces. It's my Pisces moon. That just needs to be fulfilled with water. You know what I'm saying? Like
The cancer in me loves the water. You know, the Floridian in me.
Anyways,
why are you so emotional?
I'm a Cancer moon. I'm a Cancer. My rising is a Cancer,
Dang.
and I'm an Aries.
Oh, an Aries sun. Wow, that's key. That's on point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, my week was great. I didn't have any of this rising sun stuff going.
Wait a minute. But you did have some sun.
And
I
have some
had
sun.
I had a little too much.
if
Okay.
you really think about it, you did have some rising.
Uprising.
Thank you, ladies. How about we just dive into today's
All right.
So tonight we're going to be dissecting the toxic black woman.
Go ahead, walk off. Do it. First one.
I know a lot of you might. So,
That's not on my card.
Yes, it's on mine. So, since we're discussing the toxicity of black
Over a little bit
men
since you want to attack people.
and men in general, it's not as we don't shine the light on the woman who
It's not
is.
as often that we don't shine
It's
the light
not.
on them.
I mean, we see it, but we're not.
getting beat up. Why would they shine the light on us?
Because I was going to say, do we really not shine the light on it?
I
Well,
don't-
go ahead. I'll let you
no,
finish.
no,
You're just going to ask us.
I want us to focus on what is the definition of toxic. And we've had this conversation before, so if you don't remember, please help us in the definition of toxic.
Oh, me.
Yes,
the
you.
scholar. Here I am.
The scholar.
Come along, scholar.
Well, according to
According to
dictionary.com.
Period.
Okay. According to dictionary.com.
Oh no.
According to pertaining to, affected with, or caused by a toxin, poison, a toxic condition, acting as or having the effect of poison.
Okay, thank you.
Poisonous, a toxic drug.
Poison.
Causing unpleasant feelings.
Okay.
Harmful or malicious, a toxic.
I don't remember the definition being this.
I don't either.
Wait, they give an example. A toxic boyfriend who wanted complete control over her toxic criticism.
No, well, toxic criticism.
Then no, I said over her or toxic criticism.
Okay.
Just
So
look how they fit boyfriend into toxic.
I know. But while I don't believe that the notion behind this is that black women are toxic, I do want us to get into understanding the role that it plays in things. For me personally, I think I joke around a lot about wanting to come back as a Haitian man. And
No, that's not a joke.
it's not a joke, but
I'm joking about
but
Just shoot me.
the idea behind it and the toxicity behind it is something that I've witnessed. You know, like being the only female in the house, aside from my mother and my aunts, in competition with two men, right? My brothers got favored for certain things. So we talk about those things, but why do you think it is that we talk from the men's side rather than the woman's side?
In regards to
I'm a
toxicity.
woman. What do you
I was gonna say, wait.
Yeah.
Alright,
Because
so now
I
you
was
wanna
looking at it. It's the
I
mother
was
who's playing the favoritism over, you know, the daughter and the son.
So wait, I want us to, let's really like, so you're talking about why do we focus on men being toxic rather than women? Because oftentimes, if you're thinking, if we're going to base it on a household aspect, oftentimes who's left at home with those kids? The woman. So the woman, we don't have time to focus on the woman who has to take care of her 3 children while the toxic man has left the household.
Honestly, though.
And, or if we really want to base it, we don't, like, people don't shine the light on the troubles that women have to do because
Right.
oftentimes we're only focused on the negativity that they're put in. Right or wrong. We only hear about what's been done wrong to a woman, what she missing, what she don't have, the lack thereof.
I think it's about what you're consuming, and I think it's about accountability. Like when you have this full lengthy dictionary.com definition, I do agree with you that there is more discussion of, you know, like the battering that black women receive, the downsides to being a black woman or the hardships being a black woman. But also I think that on the other end of the spectrum, I do think that there is a whole other world of toxic black women that is like perpetuated. Like I think about
Ooh, say that one more time. Please say that last line.
there is a
Perpetuated.
perpetuated.
Because I want that to be.
When I think about like Love and Hip Hop, I don't watch that show. I used to watch it like here and there. I've never really like gotten into it because the overall feeling of the show is too much for me. But those women, actually scratch that. I mean those women, yes. Sky from Black Ink. That is, to me as a black woman, an epitome of a toxic black woman. It's not even the kids thing. It's like, you know, I don't know your story. I don't know what storyline was created.
But
It's the behavior.
Yes.
It's the lack of accountability.
And
it's
but that's the thing, and that's what I want us. Maybe let me not be on a defense this episode. I do apologize. I know it's titled "The Toxic Black Woman," but it's back to what you said. It's how we view things. Because there's a character on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, a white woman who is she is Sky, just white.
Yeah, but we're not talking about that.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
but that's what,
even if we're looking at the woman on a grand scheme of things, the woman can be toxic. Point blank. Period. It's not just the man can be toxic, because we know what roles, you know, like the matriarchal and the patriarchal, those roles.
So I think we as a collective here know that women are toxic.
I think, you know what, and the other
Yeah.
thing is, I think that it's, I won't say easier to address men because they do their stuff so openly.
No,
but
it is.
it is easier, and because they dominate and are a little more on the forefront, it's easier to see all your flaws out in the open. I'm not saying that black women are hiding. I just think, but when I think about this conversation, I'm thinking about it on a grand scale of maybe like from back in the day to present day. And if we're talking about present day, there is a lot of women addressing, a lot of black women in the black community addressing other toxic black women right now. Because what we want is healing, is because we want to get unified and we want to. But
and if we really think about it, honestly, like if we really, like what you said, back in the olden days, in the olden age, women were to be what? Seen and not heard. So you never really heard the toxicity that came out of a woman.
Yeah, and those cause generational curses because
if someone ever told you, if you go to your mom, you'd be like, well, mom, you did this. Well, I had to raise you, so deal with it. Like, and you never really.
No, you get to tell your mom. Like, I feel like this generation and where we are presently, not so much even just generation, but where we are presently, people are like, no, I'm about to tell you, you were toxic. I love you, and I think that you should work through it. But mom, you were toxic.
I think a lot of us now, we are looking at our parents as people and not as parents.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. Yeah, it's a very good shift in just
the dynamic of
compassion.
Everything.
Yeah.
Because now you're like
being able to start to mend and break down like mindsets. Yeah, right. Mindsets of complacency. Ooh.
Okay.
I thought this was gonna go left. I was gonna have to be okay.
So what kind of conversations do you guys think, or do you think we can start that open conversation towards accountability for resolution?
Yeah, I definitely do. Because you know why? I think about it when I think of like groups of who my girlfriends are and then groups of who their girlfriends are. I think everyone has, maybe a friend within their group or has a friend that knows a friend within their group that can be, what is considered toxic. But I also feel like if we're collectively trying to hold each other accountable and we're collectively trying to get to a place, I would hope that that person who is exuding the toxic behavior, or if you are even the person that's exuding, like I hope we're in a space where I think we can safely check one another and safely say, like, I'm not telling you this because I'm jealous or whatever, anything like that. I'm telling you this because I want you to see how you're carrying on. I want you to see what it looks like for you to honestly, like, maybe not love yourself, maybe like to be out here in these streets like looking crazy. So I think that that's happening like across the board, because I think especially right now it kind of falls into us having been home with a pandemic, seeing a lot of things that are happening with Black people. But more importantly, I think that Black people as a whole are starting to want to learn to heal. And I think that's why this conversation is important, and I think that's why it's able to be happening. I don't know about years ago, but
I was gonna say
not years ago.
An open conversation with this current generation, yes. But I feel like it sucks to say this. I know a lot of our generation wants healing from the generation before us, but I feel like
the generation before us may not.
And that's the thing. I feel like for us to be able to find our healing and be able to find the root of our own toxicity, we have to know to just accept that that's who they were, and they may not be willing to change.
But I can start with a clean slate.
I can start with myself because I think that's what it is. Because I can hold my friends accountable. Yeah. But I necessarily don't know if I can hold the elders in my family accountable.
I can't hold necessarily my
I can't talk about the stuff that happened when I was a child because they're gonna be like, you were.
And honestly,
but
some of that, yeah, it is.
We know that.
But you know what? But I can honestly say some of that I do see happening. I'm not gonna say I don't know the quantity of which is happening, but I have seen. Thanks to social media again, always being a double-edged sword. But well, yeah, a vessel for some things. But I definitely think that I'm seeing more of people trying to collectively do that within their families and be like, or the younger generation saying like, I see how you talk to my mom, and like this is kind of crazy. Like, you gotta chill out a little bit.
Like, definitely,
because I feel
they
like
don't understand that. Like, and that might be due to the disconnect of the parenting, but kids these days are just like in that inquisitive questioning.
I don't even think it's the disconnect. I think it's the connection. I feel like it's really, when we really think about it, our parents were really working to make sure we were okay, so they weren't in the house as much. Now we got into an age where parents have more flexible work hours and they can be at home with their kids, so their kids see more and they build more of a conversation.
I think honestly,
social media.
I have the best of both worlds. Like, I have parents that definitely worked, but they also like had downtime, and I got to have that. I think it's also about, like, not to cut you off, but I'm thinking about the fact that it's also how some people are raised, because some people are raised in an open space where they can say how they feel and they can express that. I saw a whole not a forum, but like a whole thread of moms like our age, 30, 20, 25 up or whatever, and like, the child will be like, Mom, I really don't like when you yell at me. I don't understand why we just can't talk. And these kids are like 3 or 4, and that's a big jump in evolution. That's a big jump in, like, generational, because it's like that mom, I'm receiving that from my 3-year-old, and I'm actually going to talk about it as opposed to being like, oh, shut up, you would know a child's place.
You
and
remember
that's what
how,
I mean, and that's what I mean,
okay.
the different connect. And maybe it's also like we could probably play it into social media.
Yeah.
There's a lot open for kids. There's a lot more talk about mental health.
Yeah.
And the harshness that conversations has on one's mental and growing stages. I also think and I don't want to take this away from nobody, our generation, we are connected more spirituality than we are with religion.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm still very religious, but I'm also still very spiritual. I feel like the two go hand in hand. But I feel like when you're able to balance out your religion and your spirituality, you stop thinking that spare the rod, spoil the child mindset, where your child can't speak and talk back to you. All of that's gone now. Now your child is able to tell you, Mom, I didn't like that. What do you mean you didn't like that? What's wrong? Like, you have more of a vocal space rather than your mom backing you as soon as you say, like, you know what I mean? So it's just like,
thankfully,
our generation did a lot of digging.
Yeah.
And
I
unpacking.
think so. I think a lot is available to us. But I think what the internet has forced us to face is past traumas.
Yeah.
And either way,
Because
it's
things
just
are triggering for
yeah,
us.
it's like you see Sky on TV, and some people may be like, "Yo, that's how my mom acts." Like,
And you
it's
think
a
about
normality.
it, and you're like, ugh.
And it's like we have to, once we start acknowledging that, it's like we now want to have this conversation. Like, that's
And
not
I just
cool.
want to say, like, even if her behavior is not toxic to some people, that honestly, your idea of toxicity is yours within the Black woman. That's just an example for me, and I personally feel like it's not that I would hope that she gets help. I would hope that she would watch it and see it back and be like, yo, wow, I was wilding, like,
And
you know what I mean? Like,
but-
I always
But
want
we
to.
also-
I think that's the
also
thing that creates
accountability.
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Like,
But
we
can
have
we
to hold
also
her
look
accountable.
I
at
just want
Sky,
to channel that out there because
if we really take Sky as an example though, and like for a while, I watched Black Ink Crew heavily, and I had to stop. But remember,
because it was getting
when
like
she found out she had a problem, and she tried to help it, and she tried to address it through her mom, because her mom had a problem,
right,
and her
That
mom's mom
generation.
had a problem,
right.
and I think
But sometimes
with
if you
Sky's,
can't get through, you'll never.
and I think what Sky's issue was too is I feel like in a future episode we're going to talk about this. I feel like Sky had on her victim mindset, and she only looked at what was done wrong to her.
Yeah.
So when she tried to right all the wrongs, she didn't heal the toxins that were
Right,
in her.
and because somebody wasn't willing to rectify it, she couldn't find it within herself. Like, she literally
and she just went.
she was just like, well, fine, if you me up, and I should just fine, I'm just fucked up. And it's like, I just want to know how long you can go on like that before you start to really feel the effects to yourself. And you have breakdowns, and you have moments where like people are like, yo, I'm here for you, but this is what you're bugging. And you know you are. It's coming through you. You're crying. You're having these emotional. You got to take trips to get yourself to, your mind or whatever together, just for you to go back into this vicious cycle. So it's like, at what point
do you find clarity?
But I think that's also a starting point, like acknowledging that and knowing that, she may not see it in the moment. And
oh yeah, for sure, that's definitely a starting point.
People who are holding her accountable, but she has to understand that
this is what's crazy.
that's
like,
what it is. We have to show her. People have to show her that.
Yeah.
And I think knowing that it stems from previous, motherhood, like that connection between them is just, it makes it not acceptable, but it makes it like
you understand. You can be a little more empathetic towards it, but there is a point where you're like, oh, okay, girl, so how many times am I supposed to see you have these wild meltdowns?
Right. But
because sometimes I think that toxicity in the Black woman lies in codependency as well.
Because I was going to say, I have a question. It's off script. I was going to say off script. But how long do we let that go on before we back away? And
that's your own personal choice,
right?
Though. That's how long your energy can withstand that. Because
because you really think about it, it's like someone's only allowed to treat you that way if you let them.
Yeah.
So how many people in that toxic woman's life is allowing her to do that?
Enabling, or And then there's some people that I think are genuinely naive because they love you, they want to see you do better, they believe in you. So every time you get in, and every time you get up the ladder, or every time you get to a point where they're like, yes, I'm rooting for you, I think you're gonna do better, you snap and you go back to the rails, and they still are there to dust you off and pick you up. And I think that makes it a struggle for accountability sometimes as well.
And I don't mean to pinpoint Sky, but
I was gonna say, because I'm speaking I have someone else we can talk about. If
even
we don't,
with like Tommy,
I wasn't even gonna take it to Tommy. I wanted to take it to someone else who people might think is like, we won't look at her and see her as toxic.
Jeanette?
Let's look at someone as simple as.
Nah, she's toxic. No, she's sat on stage and actually.
I was gonna talk about someone like if
I love Janae, but she be tripping.
If we want
to keep,
if we want to keep it in the love and hip hop realm of things, right? Let's take it back to Peter Gun's Tara Amina. That right there, Tara was a toxic woman. Amina was a toxic woman. They were toxic to themselves because they allowed themselves to stick with a man. And we'll be like, oh, well, can you really call them toxic? That man put them through that. Amina is raising 2 daughters. Tara was raising 2 boys. Tara knew that man got married and continued to sleep with him. Because she said, that is mine and I can do it when I want to. That's toxic behavior. That right there is, so when
did you say poisonous?
But when we look at her,
acting or having the effect of a poison.
but this is the thing, and for a while people look at Tara, she didn't curse, she wasn't
right, she had the good girl
she wasn't vulgar. We wouldn't see
Aisha Curry complex.
But we could even call Aisha Curry toxic in
She
ways.
is, because she
Remember
insulted everyone, and she was like, "Oh, what is it? I keep church clothes on.
I keep covered up. Yeah, so it's
but
just
then
like
drop how many pounds?
Okay,
and
now
little
she on
like
looking like a looking like a yes, ma'am.
I am black woman. I love you, and I'm happy for you. I'm just saying that one time that thing was toxic, though.
And that's what I mean, like. If we realize
accountability feels like it hurts sometimes, and it kind of does. But I'm here to lift you. Like, I'm here to be like, no,
because
get up.
Because I know for a fact I am toxic in many ways, and I'm learning and growing through it. Like, you get what I mean? When your self-esteem plays into your relationship with friends, with family, with your significant other, that's a toxic trait. When you are insecure about something and you start putting those insecurities on other people, and you start that right there, like you not knowing how to deal with your own inner issues. So it's just like we all have a little bit of toxicity.
To dig a little deeper on that, I feel like that is especially a thing with the black woman.
I
think it's especially a thing with the black woman because I think about Little Kim. I think about women who struggle with like European standards and struggle.
When we really think about it, right? Think about that black woman who sits there and and we're all, I feel like, let me not say we're all, I have been guilty of this. We feel like we got our shit together, so we start pointing out what's wrong in other women. That right there is toxic as well. Because
black women,
black women, I don't need you. Like, no one needs me to point out their faults. You get what I mean? I'm not here to write down on the list and tell you what your faults are, just because I feel like I have all of mine squared away. And that right there is something that I see. I see it a lot on social media. Just the other day, Tiny's daughter talked about her pregnancy, and she said a statement where she said she feels like marriage is more of a commitment than a child. And people bashed her.
People feel like that.
People bashed her, and I was just like, she has her right.
Like, I mean, honey, it's a child, and they have to do all these things. I'm like,
did your baby daddy stay around for? Did your baby daddy stay around for 18 years?
To her, maybe she feels like I'm in a place of support. This is going to be easier for me, and the actual concept of marriage after us having a child may actually be like, whoa, like
Do I really want to commit my finances to you?
Well, I'm going to try to vote. I want to know, how do we get a point of implementing these, or how do you suggest that we come to a point of resolution? How we implement these things? I know it's a loaded question, but of course, after accountability has been taken, there's some strategy that comes along with the suggestion.
I would say
like
therapy.
Maxine just now.
Maxine Waters or which one?
What is it?
Shaw, attorney at law.
I didn't know who she wanted to be. You said Maxine is.
You could also call her the Maverick.
Well,
But yeah.
But I think therapy, whether we're directly facing these issues alone or we have like an elderly, mentor, someone who can help us navigate through. Not elderly, but like even if you can have an elder who can help guide you through just understanding that where you are and where they were, we're not in the same, things are not the same right now.
Yeah.
But having that refreshing conversation is just, it's necessary because you don't know what you can get from it.
You sure don't.
I think what would be good too.
Because even now the old folks, I feel like the old folks are understanding and they're being forced into this.
Yeah,
so
it's like I was just thinking that, but they're kind of like chilling. They're like, "Oh, girl, I've seen so much." So when you say it like that, or
I'm already old and stuck in my ways, like.
Well, that, but also I feel like it's kind of in a weird way, in like a weird opposite way. It's almost easier for them to understand where we're coming from because they experience a form of it in their own right, in their own time. Like everybody kind of experience. It's like time lapses. You kind of experience the same thing, in each like.
And can I also tell you, I give grace to a lot of older folks because I'm gonna be honest, they dealt with a lot more than we did.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like their experiences.
But
they were,
I'm not even gonna open that.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I feel like I said, I look at my, you gotta look at your parents and see them as people.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how I would have been if I grown up in their eras, in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s.
I would have been this person
and
right
the 60s. We say that, but you have.
No, I mean that.
I don't know what I would have been able
Have
to
you
deal
seen
with.
some of our ancestors? Like,
Okay.
Well, you are a real
My
cookie.
ancestor looks like DMX. Okay, so I make the back one piece. No, but I was going to say, I think that like small things too. If you can't necessarily jump straight into therapy, if you feel like you comfortably have a group of females or a group of friends that really do hold you accountable, maybe start groups with them. Start accountability groups. Look up exercises and things that you guys can do to release yourself from feeling toxic. And I think that that's just an all-around being thing. Like you should really try to figure out how you can really like do your inner work, and really get to know like where is it stemming from? Why does this tick me off? Like why do I react like this? But
and do it in a way that works for you.
Yeah,
I know
for
a lot
sure.
of people don't do therapy.
And sometimes you don't. And sometimes you don't know that you're reacting this way or whatever. But I feel like it's just really a matter of trying to listen more and trying to actively listen and be like, okay, something? It can't always be me. It can't always be like I'm the one that's just getting, again, we're gonna get into, because this is kind of sliding into a little victimhood. But it kind of is.
The woe is me.
You know what I mean? But that's a toxic trait anyways, to me, So I feel like definitely if you can amongst your girls, like maybe start to do exercises and accountability things and freely be open to being like, yo, honestly, was I bugging? Like, did I handle that wrong? What do you think about this? And not, taking the truth to heart, because honestly, right now, everybody's getting served dashes and doses of truth, no matter what. So it's just but I think that'll be really great. And hopefully we can get across the board and start doing healing workshops and big
and another
festivals of healing
festivals.
And
healing festivals. Some meditation camps, please.
And another big key to look at.
I'm working on it.
Another key. If you are trying to do this work and you realize the people around you are like, girl, don't worry about it.
Ooh.
Make sure you change that.
Separate yourself. If you don't want me, then don't talk to me. I'm sorry. I just
So listen.
ahead,
Okay.
Free yourself.
In closing, in the pursuit of transparency, I'm going to ask, so do you ladies feel like that you have been toxic or contributed to any toxicity in the past?
Hell yeah.
I was going to say, you just said something like 10 minutes ago.
Hell yeah.
How have you reformed? How have you been delivered?
I feel like my toxic trait in the past was
Tape.
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 Baby. And the CIA don't know already, but I feel like one of my toxic traits in the past was very much I had a mindset of I'm not going to get mad, I'm just going to get even. And you sip that for both of us, just chug it down. And I had to get to a place of trying to figure out after some years, because my mother told me I told her that when I was about 7. I'm 30, guys. I'll be 31 next month. So,
You're older.
very. But no, yeah, I feel like I really had to dig into get to a point of being like, okay, you know something, you spend your time getting even with people, like, well, what does that really do for you? And honestly, does that not bring you karma too? Like, isn't that a cycle? Like, don't you want to stop feeling like, don't you want to figure out what is it that they're doing that triggers you to a point of feeling like you need to get even? Like, why don't you just let it go? Because honestly, it's more work for you. It's not your nature. It's more work for you to get even in the first place. And you got to hold it and harbor it and work through that. So why bother? But it took me a very long time to get to that point, because you kind of have to be willing to self-reflect and be willing to be like, all right, actually, what I just did, I was wilding the fuck out. I'm not gonna do that again. And now I need to figure out why I thought that was okay for this many times, or this long. So I definitely feel like that, and the spirit of transparency that there.
Well,
So,
listen,
That was,
I am what, 30 years of age?
can we
You
erase
all
this
too.
part?
you all too.
That was
I
a
am.
lot of transparency. And
At 30 years of age, I want to say
You were
a
on the
good.
receiving end of that. I'm sorry.
When do you start taking full accountability? I would say I was 12, 13.
Never.
So 13.
That's my toxic trait right now. We talking about old things, right?
Well, I want to say I had a good 17, 18, 19, 20 years of toxicity.
I think you start
The last
taking accountability when your parents help you to mold responsibility.
So 20, 28 years. So, I was toxic for.
She said, I just
No, but I'm gonna be honest with you, because if
I'm not
reflect-
disagreeing. I just named a specific trait.
I was gonna say no, because
I
if
took the question how I wanted
really,
to.
if I really think of the grand scheme of things, and I even think about friendships that I let go in these past few years, relationships that I was in these past few years,
Yeah.
jobs that I held, a lot of things that keep you unhappy that you stick to, that right there is toxicity. Why am I stuck to that thing that is so toxic? Why am I holding on to that thing that causes me so much grief and stress? What is it about me that likes that?
Why you sound like the
I like the
Beyonce
money.
skit?
Oh.
Like a prologue.
money at the job.
Oh, like,
What is it about me?
and I'm gonna tell you right now, I condoned a lot of behavior rather than holding people accountable. So it's just like, at my 30 years young, I now see that I just, excuse my French, if I don't fuck with it and it ain't fucking with me, I let it
I'm
go.
gonna carry on. Amen.
And it's just like, it's as simple as that. If it's gonna cause me more pain and grief, I'm gonna politely ask you to just write it in your journal. And I'm gonna pray for
Could
you.
you please write that in your journal? Could you please write that in your journal?
Just write it in your journal. Like, if we about to go on,
I'm like, my journal's full. You have no idea. It's been
I'll
a
get
year,
you one.
okay?
I will
but
get
that's how you really
Come on, we
have,
show over here.
but that's how I found
She was
resolution.
toxic too.
Moesha was toxic. That we going to an episode.
It's a
We
close
going to an
episode.
episode. She was toxic.
So I think I've been on both ends. I think I've been toxic and I've allowed toxicity. Like you were saying, like in jobs and friendships, in just relationships as well. But you know, I think I had to have that sit down with myself where it was like, well, what is it that you really, you know, like, who are you? What is it that you really want? And
you ask yourself that?
yeah, I had to. There was no one else that I could talk to while I was in time.
Oh, being toxic. 'Cause you know, everybody.
And that's one of my toxic traits. I like to just
Go.
separate myself. That's it. I don't. It's gonna cause me too much
Go.
to think.
I think that, I know what you mean, but I don't think that's a toxic trait. I think it's toxic when you just opt not to.
Well, think about it. It could be toxic for her because she just runs away from the situation.
I was about to say you opt not to address things. And,
I mean,
but then I was going to say, but not everything is worth
in
addressing.
certain aspects, yeah, and for me, I had to sit down and think like, which one of these things that you've done in the past were they worth it? So you kind of had to sit. I had to sit with that and just be like,
And
you know what? So this is what I won't allow. in anything else.
Because you
So-
asked me if it was worth it, and I'm gonna really sit there and be like, well,
And I
in
know-
that time,
I'm
And
gonna
I know-
put my
and I
video down,
know-
flip it, and reverse it.
You know, I know
That's not
in
worth
the
it.
moment
That's not
certain
worth it.
things may be like word, because it's, you know, that toxicity be an adrenaline rush. But
But she ain't lying. That's what made me go.
no, Dad, I don't like that.
you gotta think about it. That rush you feel.
Yeah, there's, and you know
But
that
how
this
long
ain't
does
right.
it how long does it
It
last?
should last long. But no, to wrap up this episode,
And to bring it back, a
And to bring it back.
poisonous drug, a toxic
working
drug.
forwards, not being toxic, because we are the start of every generation as
Yeah.
women, as a black woman. And I have to say as a black woman because we are still the originators.
All right.
Okay?
I know.
But we have to understand our roles and what our mothers played, their roles that they played in that, and our roles in how we're moving forward.
Period, Pooh.
Okay?
Can we remove that? That is toxic.
No,
that,
you're toxic.
That period and
Period, Pooh.
poo.
No, you're
that's
toxic.
toxic as hell.
Period.
Can it go away?
Period. You're toxic.
Ugh.
Period.
All right. Well,
All right.
guys,
Well, thank you
it's been
guys.
fun. Thank you so
for this
much.
A
I
lovely
hope to go
episode.
detox now from
Yep.
these toxic ones because
Period.
She just running away from us. Be
Period.
sure to follow us on all of our social platforms: Instagram, Facebook,
you know where to find us.
Toxic Wine, and on
.com.
toxicwine.com. Thank you guys for another episode.
Period.
Have a good night.
Good night, guys.